The day we were supposed to get our marriage license, my fiancée, Chloe, was a no-show. Instead, her stepmom, Melanie, smiled at me and asked, "How about you and I get one instead?" My brain short-circuited. "Melanie, stop messing around. That's completely inappropriate. Call me Mel. I'm only 9 years older than you," she said. "And since you and Chloe are officially over, what does it matter? But you and my mom are like sisters." Melanie shrugged. "We can keep that separate. You call me Mel, and I'll keep calling your mom Carol. Simple." I was speechless. 01 Chloe Adams and I had been together since senior year of high school. 8 years. When she finally accepted my proposal, we set the date to get our license. May 21st, a day she said felt special. The day before, I went to Melanie Vance's office to ask for the day off. Melanie, my boss and Chloe's stepmom, is 34. Only 9 years my senior, but you'd never know it. She's tall with delicate features and a youthful face that makes her look like she's my age. That day, she wore a tailor blazer over a simple white blouse and straight-leg trousers, a look of simple, elegant competence. Her long hair was pulled up in a neat twist, making her look professional but without sacrificing her femininity. "Taking the day to go to City Hall with Chloe?" Melanie asked, looking up from her chair. "How did you know?" I was stunned. She and Chloe had a strained relationship. There was no way Chloe would have told her. I figured my mom must have mentioned it. Melanie and my mom were close. "Why not May 20th? Wouldn't that have been better?" she asked instead. Chloe said the 21st just felt right. I told her. "Wow, not even married yet and already so obedient," Melanie muttered under her breath. I stayed quiet, my mind racing. "Are you going to approve the request or not? I don't think you two are right for each other. You sure you don't want to reconsider?" she said, her eyes fixed on me. I felt a flash of irritation. "We're getting the license tomorrow, Melanie. Is this really the time for that?" She just shrugged. "It's a major life event. Of course, I'll approve it. Thanks, Mrs. V. Thanks, Melanie," I said with a relieved smile and left her office. As I walked away, I felt her eyes on my back, her expression thoughtful. I immediately called Chloe to tell her the good news, but she sent me straight to voicemail. A second later, a text came through. "Can't talk, just text me." I typed out that my time off was approved and asked if she wanted to grab dinner. She texted back, citing some old tradition that the bride and groom shouldn't see each other the day before the wedding. I told her that was fine and just reminded her not to be late. That evening, after I got home from work and had dinner, my mom handed me my driver's license and birth certificate, giving me a little pep talk. I exchanged a few more texts with Chloe before turning in early. The next morning, my phone buzzed me awake. I assumed it was Chloe, but the caller ID showed Melanie's name. "Morning, kiddo. Time to get up. Don't want to be late for your big day." I was baffled. She was the one who kept saying Chloe and I were a bad match. Why was she so invested now? After hanging up, I showered, grabbed my documents, and headed out the door. To my surprise, Melanie's car was parked at the curb. "Figured you might have trouble getting an Uber this early," she said, rolling down the window. She was Chloe's stepmom, after all. I tried not to overthink it and got in. I expected her to say something on the way, but she drove in silence. When we got to the county clerk's office, there was already a line forming. I hopped out and tried calling Chloe again. Straight to voicemail. Her phone was off. I scanned the line, but she was nowhere in sight. I kept calling. Still off. I waited all morning, but she never showed. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. Then my phone buzzed. It was a video from Chloe. My hand trembled as I pressed play. Chloe appeared on the screen, wearing a red silk robe. She was sitting in front of a bed made up with bright red sheets. On the bed, a shirtless man was lying there, asleep. My world tilted on its axis. "Kevin," she said, her face a cold, emotionless mask. "I'm sure after seeing this, you get it. I don't need to explain a thing." Of course, I didn't get it. At all. I could barely breathe. "I told you once," she continued, her voice like ice. "Loving me would come at a price." She had said that more than once. And every time, I told her I was willing to pay any price. I just never imagined this is what she meant. Why was this happening? I couldn't wrap my head around it. If it weren't for your mother, my dad would have never met Melanie. If he hadn't met her, none of this would have happened. All of you are responsible for his death. You might think you're innocent, but you're not. Reality is cruel. I didn't get a choice, and as your mother's son, neither do you. In that instant, something clicked into place. Over a decade ago, Melanie was an insurance agent. She was always stopping by to chat with my mom, trying to make a sale. She was so charming, calling my mom by her first name from day one, and before long, they were practically sisters. My mom started referring clients to her, including our next-door neighbor, Arthur Adams, Chloe's dad. Somehow, they hit it off and got engaged fast. But Arthur's luck ran out. The day they got their marriage license, he was killed in a car accident just a few blocks from City Hall. I never, ever thought Chloe would blame my mother for her father's death. So, agreeing to be my girlfriend, agreeing to marry me. It wasn't out of love. It was the opposite. It was about hate. The man in the bed is my real boyfriend, Chloe said with a smirk, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. He knows everything about us. I never hid a thing from him. He's your boyfriend? Then what was I? And look at this, she said, holding up 2 small red booklets to the camera and opening them. They were marriage certificates. The photo inside was of her and the man from the bed. And the date. It was yesterday, May 20th. My mind went blank. That's why she insisted on the 21 SD. She was marrying someone else on the 20th. I bet that snake Melanie is with you, isn't she? Chloe's voice dripped with venom. She was always going on about how we weren't a good match. I think she's just a desperate tramp who wants you for herself. Go ahead, the 2 of you can get married. That's how she trapped my dad, too. A woman like that is capable of anything. Tell her this is just the beginning. Now that I'm married, I'm coming to take back everything that's mine. The man in the video stirred, looking at the camera in confusion. The video ended. I tried calling Chloe again. Still off. I finally realized she hadn't just turned her phone off. She'd blocked my number. My head was spinning. The world felt like it was dissolving around me. I can't believe she has that much calculation in her. Playing the long game like that, a voice said behind me. It was Melanie. Although, if it were me, I'd get the license first and then pull a stunt like this at the wedding. She sounded almost disappointed. I realized she'd been standing behind me, watching the whole thing. A wave of exhaustion washed over me. I turned to leave. She's married now, Kevin. She's somebody else's wife. What are you going to do? Melanie grabbed my arm, her tone sharp. Try looking at it differently. You got to sleep with another man's wife for years, for free. Didn't you come out ahead? I froze. She was right. They were married. What good would finding her do? As for her last point, the logic was twisted, but in that moment, I couldn't find a way to argue with it. 02, I watched as happy couples walked into City Hall and emerged as legally married pairs. A pang of sadness hit me. That was probably Chloe and that other guy yesterday. Just then, Melanie's voice cut through my thoughts. So, she said with a wry smile, should we take Chloe's advice? How about we go get that license? A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Stop joking, Melanie. We're from different generations. This isn't the time for games. She just laughed. Call me Mel. I'm only 9 years older than you. And since you and Chloe are done, what generation gap are we even talking about? My face hardened. You and my mom call each other sisters. We'll keep it separate, she said with a dismissive shrug. You call me Mel, and I'll keep calling you Mom, Carol. Problem solved. I stared at her, completely bewildered. Honestly, because Melanie was young and so close to our family, she'd always joked around with me. She'd say things like, you're growing up into such a handsome man. Some girl is going to be very lucky. She'd even say in front of my mom, who would just scold her for being an Annie who doesn't act like one, brushing it off as a joke. It wasn't until I started working for her and dating Chloe that she toned it down. But right now, I was in no mood for jokes. All I could think about was how I was going to explain this disaster to my mom. And right on cue, my phone rang. It was her. Kevin, what is going on with you and Chloe? She just showed up here with a marriage certificate, but the groom isn't you. My mom's voice was a frantic rush of words, thick with shock. Chloe didn't just stand me up. She went straight to my house to torment my mother. She's saying I killed her father. What's she talking about? My mom sounded like she was on the verge of tears. A surge of hot anger coursed through me. The video had left me shocked and confused, but hearing that Chloe went after my mom, that made me furious. I jumped back into Melanie's car. Chloe and I both came from single-parent homes. My parents divorced when I was 7, and I never saw my dad again. My mom raised me all by herself, and I wouldn't let anyone hurt her. I tried to calm her down, telling her to kick Chloe out and that I was on my way home. She said Chloe had already left after her tirade. Mom just couldn't understand how her dad's death had anything to do with her. I soothed her for a few more minutes before hanging up, my fists clenched tight. I thought I knew Chloe. We'd both grown up in the same circumstances. I never imagined she could be so bitter and conniving. She'd never shown a hint of it. Don't overthink it. What's done is done. We'll figure out when we get home, Melanie said, softly once I was off the phone. I just can't believe Chloe turned out like this, I muttered, still reeling. She didn't turn out like this, Melanie said with a cold scoff. She's always been like this. You just never saw it. Her words made me think back to all the times she told me Chloe and I weren't a good match. Paired with what she just said, did she know something all along? I turned to look at her. Don't look at me, she said, shrugging as she drove. I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. You still there, confused. All she ever said was that we weren't a good fit. How was that a warning? I also told you there was a lot you didn't know about Chloe, that you needed to pay more attention to her, she added, her expression one of exasperation. Now that I thought about it, she might have said something like that. But why couldn't she have just been direct? Soon, we were pulling up to my house. Chloe's car was gone. I ran inside and found my mom sitting on the couch, wiping away tears. Kevin, what on earth is going on? She asked, her voice cracking as she grabbed my arm. Seeing her so upset made my anger boil over, leaving me speechless. It was Melanie who stepped in, taking my mom's hand and gently explaining the whole situation. What? My mom was stunned. She had always felt a little guilty after Arthur Adams died, often saying she was the one who had ruined Melanie's life, leaving her a widow for all these years. But she never imagined Chloe would hold a grudge against her for it. After her father's death, my mom had treated Chloe like her own daughter, and Chloe had never shown a trace of resentment. To think she had been hiding it all this time, just for this moment, to marry someone else as an act of revenge against our family. Melanie kept comforting my mom, telling her to let it go, that what's done is done. With her smooth, persuasive words, my mom gradually came around. Truth be told, my mom was never thrilled about me dating Chloe. Not because she disliked her, but because Chloe had become so quiet and withdrawn after her dad died. And I was a pretty quiet guy myself. She thought two people like that couldn't make it work. I insisted, and she eventually caved. I guess this was the result. But I already handed out the wedding favors to everyone in the neighborhood. My mom suddenly remembered, slapping her thigh in despair. What am I going to tell people when they ask? Seeing her worry about that, of all things, actually made me feel a bit relieved. Well, Melanie chimed in, smiling at my mom. How about I marry Kevin? Would that work? I froze. Even if she was close with my mom, now was not the time for that kind of joke. Mel, I'm not in the mood for jokes right now, my mom said with a weak, sad smile, shaking her head. I'm not joking, Melanie said, shrugging again. She glanced at me. You've been telling me I need to find someone. Kevin's single now. We're perfect for each other. What? Are you serious? My mom, who had been leaning on Melanie's arm, pulled away. Of course. We can go get the license this afternoon. Then your wedding favors won't go to waste, Melanie said, linking her arm back through my mom's, her smile unwavering. I couldn't tell if she was being serious or just trying to lighten the mood. Melanie, this isn't something to joke about, my mom said, her tone growing stern. I frantically tried to catch Melanie's eye, gesturing for her to stop. Just as she was about to say something else, her phone rang. After listening for a few seconds, her expression shifted. She stood up and walked to the side to continue the call. Kevin, my mom said, taking the opportunity to scold me. You need to stop making these inappropriate jokes with your auntie. If people heard, we'd be the laughingstock of the neighborhood. I was completely dumbfounded. When had I ever joked with her? She was always the one starting it. I have to get back to the plant, Melanie said, returning after finishing her call. Something felt wrong. I remembered Chloe's last words in the video. I'm coming to take back everything that's mine. Is it Chloe? Did she go to the factory? I asked immediately. Yes, but it's not a big deal. I'll go handle it. Melanie seemed surprised I'd guessed, but she just nodded and turned to leave. I'm coming with you, I said, rushing after her. I need to see Chloe to get things straight. Talk things out, you too. Don't make a huge scene for everyone to gossip about, my mom called out as we left. When you see her, don't get emotional, Melanie instructed as she started the car. You're not good with words, so just keep your mouth shut. I grunted in agreement, trying to suppress my anger. On the drive, Melanie was on the phone, getting updates from the factory. She told her staff to keep Chloe calm, take her to the office, and wait for her to get there. I sat in silence, stewing, thinking of all the things I wanted to scream at Chloe. I could handle her screwing me over, but going after my mom, who had been so good to her for all these years, that was unforgivable. Anyone with a shred of decency wouldn't blame my mom for her father's death. Soon we were pulling into the industrial park on the outskirts of town and through the gates of Adams Electronics. The first thing I saw was Chloe's Honda Accord parked in the lot. I jumped out of the car and bolted for the 3-story office building. Melanie called after me a few times, but couldn't stop me, so she hurried to catch up. I stormed up to the 3rd floor to Melanie's office. Chloe was sitting behind Melanie's desk. Her expression flickered when she saw it was me. "Chloe, what the hell is your problem?" I yelled, slamming the office door shut. "Why did you go to my mom's house? She's an older woman. Even if you don't care about me, how could you forget how good she's always been to you?" "Humph. She did it out of guilt," Chloe sneered, her voice still ice cold. "She wanted to make up for what she did, and I don't want her pity. If it weren't for your mother meddling, would my dad be dead? Why shouldn't I go make a scene? I didn't just go today. I'll go tomorrow and the day after. I'll go every single day until everyone knows what she did." I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. A red-hot rage blinded me, and I raised my hand to slap her. "Go ahead. Hit me." Chloe shot up from her chair, thrusting her face toward me. "I dare you. Hit me right here." Seeing her like that, my self-control snapped. "Don't." Just as my hand was about to connect, Melanie burst in and grabbed me from behind. "Well, the vixen finally shows up," Chloe sneered at the sight of Melanie. "Didn't you two get married? What a waste of a beautiful day, like May 21 SD. "Oh, we did." I shot back, my voice dripping with sarcasm as I looked at Chloe's smug face. "It's a good thing you didn't show. Thanks for setting us free." Chloe's expression faltered for a second before hardening into a sneer. "I knew there was something going on between you two. Always joking around, telling me we weren't a good match. What happens between us is none of your business anymore," I retorted. "You're right. It's not," she conceded, a flicker of surprise in her eyes before she sat back down. "But this factory is my business. My father built it. As his daughter, I'm here to take it back. If you have any shame, Melanie, you'll get out of here right now." "I'm sorry, Chloe, but I can't do that," Melanie said, a calm smile on her face. "Why not? You just want to steal my father's inheritance. That's why you went after him in the first place, wasn't it? For this factory." Chloe's voice was laced with poison. "You were more than 10 years younger than him. Why else would you marry an old man? Don't think everyone's an idiot. First of all, let me be clear," Melanie began, her tone even and measured. "Your father and I were in love, and we were legally married. In the eyes of the law, I am his primary heir. As his daughter, you come after me." Chloe's face twitched. "Then at least half of this factory is mine. I demand my share." Clearly, she knew the laws of inheritance. She was just trying to bluff. "Of course," Melanie said with a smile. "Legally, you're not just Arthur's daughter. You're my daughter, too. Just call me Mom, and half of this factory is yours. In your dreams, you wanted to call a slut like you, Mom? You're not worthy." Chloe spat, her face contorted with rage. "Oh, and one more thing," Melanie continued, unfazed by the insult. "When your father left this factory in my hands, it was deeply in debt. Every brick and machine here now I earn myself. It has nothing to do with your father. You want your inheritance? Fine. You're Arthur's daughter, after all. But on what grounds are you claiming it? You're lying. I remember when my dad started this place. Business was booming. Now you're telling me it was about to go under." Chloe scoffed. "So I should thank you for saving it? You're a great storyteller." "From the very first day I took over, I knew this day might come," Melanie said with a shrug, seemingly prepared for this. "I knew you'd grow up and try to pull something like this, and it would be my word against yours. So I kept meticulous records of every transaction, every debt. It's all in black and white. The accounting department has all the ledgers. You can check them yourself, or you can hire a professional to do it for you." Chloe stared at Melanie, speechless. Even I was impressed. Melanie had been thinking about this possibility from the very beginning. I didn't know whether to call it cunning or brilliant foresight. "I'll have someone look into it. You just wait," Chloe hissed, turning to storm out. "I'll be back." "Chloe," I said, stepping in front of her. "What? Still want to hit me? Then do it," she sneered, her eyes full of contempt. I had calmed down. When it came to manipulation, no one could beat Chloe. If I laid a hand on her now, who knows what kind of scheme she'd cook up. Besides, she'd shown her true colors. She was married to someone else. She was a stranger to me now. 04, I'm warning you, I said, my voice low and cold, staring directly into her eyes. Stay away from my mother. You played me, and I'll live with that. But if you bother my mom again, I swear, I'll do anything. Chloe stared at me for a long moment. I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes before she turned and walked away. Even if she never loved me, she grew up with me. She knew that when I set my mind to something, I follow through. After she left, I let out a long breath. I noticed a few employees peeking out of their offices. What are you looking at? Don't you have work to do? Melanie barked. Once everyone had scurried away, she pulled me back in her office. So, you told Chloe we got married? She said with a smile after closing the door. But we didn't. Want to go fix that this afternoon? I was floored. The joke was funny once, but can we drop it now? Who told you I was joking? She asked, her expression suddenly serious. What? I stared at her, my mind reeling. You thought all those things I said to you and your mom were just jokes? She pressed, a small smile playing on her lips. No. Melanie, stop messing with me. I stammered, my face heating up. I told you. At work, it's Mrs. Vance. In private, it's Mel. She corrected me with a grin. I studied her, trying to process it. A sinking feeling told me she wasn't kidding. Her face showed no sign of the 9 years between us. I remember the first time I saw her, 10 years ago. I'd had a huge crush on her, but I was just a kid in middle school, and she was so much older. I never let myself think about it seriously. Then she got engaged to Mr. Adams, and any fantasy I had vanished. And after that, I got together with Chloe and never gave another thought. Honestly, a woman like Melanie. She was beautiful, successful, and smart. Other than being 9 years older, she was practically perfect. Who wouldn't be attracted to her? But what did she see in me? My youth? My stubborn, one-track mind? My paycheck that was barely enough to cover rent? Or maybe it was our old house in the rundown part of town. What is it? Why are you staring at me like that? Melanie asked, waving a hand in front of my face. Nothing, I said, snapping out of my daze. Think about it, she said confidently. I'll handle your mom. She won't be a problem. You're really serious? My mom will never agree to this, I said, stunned. The age difference was one thing, but the fact that she was a widow? My mom would never get past that. Besides, she always saw Melanie as a little sister. Her sister suddenly becoming her daughter-in-law? My mom was progressive, but not that progressive. You say your mom won't agree, but you haven't said you won't agree, Melanie pointed out, her eyes twinkling. Does that mean you're not against the idea? Huh? I was caught off guard. She was right. Why hadn't I refused? Did that mean I wanted this? Don't stress about it, she said, settling into her office chair with a slight frown. Even if I'm going to talk to your mom, I need to figure out the right way to approach it. Wait, Melanie, I started. Mel, she corrected, her expression softening. Mel, Fine, Nil. I just don't get it. I'm just an average guy. What do you see in me? And this can't be a sudden impulse. You're not the type to do things on a whim. I had to ask. She was so out of my league. It made no sense. You really don't know? She asked, looking at me intently. I don't just not know. I can't even comprehend it, I said, shaking my head. Do you remember the flood 7 years ago? She asked. The flood? I had to think for a minute before the memory surfaced. It had rained nonstop that year, and the old drainage system in our neighborhood couldn't handle it. The whole area was flooded. The water came suddenly in the middle of the night. Our house was on higher ground, so we weren't hit too badly. But Chloe's house was in a low-lying area, and the water was knee-deep. The first thing I did was run to their house. I found Melanie first. I carried her on my back to my house, and then I went back for Chloe. I got a nasty cut on my leg from some broken glass that got infected and left a scar I still have today. Remember now? Melanie's gaze was piercing. Why did you rescue me first and not Chloe? I was stunned. She was right. At the time, Chloe and I were already secretly dating. Logically, I should have saved her first. But for some reason, my first instinct was to find Melanie. Was it possible that even back then, I had feelings for her? And 5 years ago, when I had that high fever and couldn't shake it, remember that? She asked. I remembered instantly. I had rushed her to an urgent care clinic in the middle of the night. I stayed with her all night, and only went home after her fever finally broke in the morning. I was so worried Chloe would misunderstand that I explained everything to her. She didn't seem to care at all. I thought she was just being understanding. Now I realize she probably just didn't give a damn. And 3 years ago, she continued, as if reading from a list in her head, I was leaving a business meeting and some drunk guy started harassing me outside the hotel. He showed up out of nowhere. I vaguely remembered that. I was out with friends at a barbecue nearby and just happened to see it. The drunk guy smashed a bottle over my head. I ended up with a face full of blood and a bunch of stitches. My mom was worried I'd be scarred for life and never find a wife. Melanie had joked then, if he really can't find anyone, I'll do him a favor and marry him. There were so many other times, she said, her voice soft but firm. I remember all of them. In my eyes, Kevin, you are anything but ordinary. For a long time, I couldn't speak. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. First, the shock from Chloe, and now this bombshell from Melanie. It was too much to process. You don't have to figure it all out right now, Melanie said gently, seeing my silence. I just told you how I really feel. You know what you feel in your own heart. I'm giving you a week off. Go home. Think about what I said. And think about what you really want. I nodded. I needed to digest this. I called an Uber and left Adams Electronics. The whole ride home, my mind was a blank slate. I didn't even realize we'd arrived until the driver had to call out to me. As soon as I walked in the door, my mom started peppering me with questions about what had happened to the factory with Chloe. I gave her the general rundown, but left out everything that happened after Chloe left. I must be getting old and foolish, my mom said, days after hearing the story. I never thought that girl could be so scheming. Now she's after the factory? That place is Melanie's creation. I remember when old Arthur died. The line of creditors at his door stretched down the block. I nodded. I had a vague memory of that too. But hearing my mom say, "Your Auntie Mel," sent a strange jolt through me. This was something I could never, ever tell her. I spent the next few days at home doing nothing, just eating and sleeping. At first, my thoughts were consumed by Chloe. Then it was Chloe and Melanie. Then, slowly, it became Melanie and Chloe. By the end of the week, all I could think about were Melanie's words. She hadn't called or come by the house. And for some reason, I found myself both hoping she would and dreading it at the same time. At lunch one day, my mom's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was Melanie. My heart skipped a beat. Was she going to tell my mom? My phone must be dead. It's probably for me. I snatched the phone out of her hand. "You strange kid," my mom said, giving me a weird look, but letting it go. "Melanie? What's up?" I said quickly, worried she'd say something my mom could overhear on her old, loud phone. "Kevin, why is it you? And I told you, call me Mel." "Is your mom there?" she asked, sounding surprised. "Just tell me what you need. I'll pass it on," I said, walking away with the phone. "Okay, you can tell her then. I'm picking up some groceries tonight and cooking at your place. Thought I'd treat you two to a nice meal." With that, she hung up. I froze. What did that mean? It wasn't the first time she'd cooked at our house, but this time felt different. "What did your Auntie Mel want?" my mom asked, coming out to find me. "Oh, nothing," I said quickly, handing the phone back to her. I immediately went back to my room and called Melanie. "What are you doing? What was that about?" "What do you mean?" "I'm just making dinner." "What's the big deal?" she replied innocently. "Just dinner. What else would it be?" "It better be," I said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Are you afraid I'm going to tell your mom about us?" She laughed. "No, there is no us. You got to go. Bye." I hung up before she could say anything else. When I stepped out of my room, my mom was standing right outside my door, frowning. My stomach dropped. "Mom, were you eavesdropping? Didn't you say your phone was dead? Are you and Melanie hiding something from me?" she asked, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. I quickly denied it, mumbling something about having plugged it into charge while I made the call. She didn't look convinced, but she dropped it. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. My thoughts kept bouncing between Chloe and Melanie. Chloe was married now. Even if she realized she'd been wrong about my mom, there was no going back for us. But me and Melanie, was that even possible? Leaving aside the 9-year age gap, she was Chloe's stepmom. Was I really going to marry my ex-fiancée's stepmom out of some twisted sense of revenge, like in some trashy novel? What would my mom think? What would the neighbors say? The whole thing was a mess. That evening, Melanie showed up with bags of groceries. She greeted my mom warmly and they disappeared into the kitchen together. Hearing her voice made my heart do a little flip. I wanted to go out and see her, but I forced myself to stay in my room, listening through my open window, which faced the kitchen. To my relief, their conversation was normal. My mom asked a few more questions about the Chloe situation, and Melanie reassured her it was all manageable. That girl is just so lost. How'd she turn out like this? Was it my fault? My mom lamented. It has nothing to do with you, Melanie said kindly. She's just stubborn and self-righteous, and she won't listen to reason. One day, she'll understand her father's death was just an accident. I hope so. It doesn't matter much for me. We're not related. But I worry about you, Mel. You're her stepmother, and Adams Electronics is doing so well now. I'm afraid she won't give up so easily. Don't worry. I pour my heart and soul into this company. I won't let it go without a fight. If she behaves, I'll take care of her, for Arthur's sake. But if she keeps this up, I won't just sit back and take it. I'm not her real mother. As long as my conscience is clear, I don't owe her anything, Melanie said, her voice firm. That's true, but I worry what the neighbors will say. I can't control what other people say, Melanie cut in with a scoff. After Arthur died, you think I haven't heard the rumors? I'm not the kind of woman who lives her life based on other people's opinions. If I were, I wouldn't be where I am today. Listening to her, I felt a wave of admiration. My mom sighed, understanding completely. After all these years, she knew how tough Melanie had it. Mel, you've really had a hard time all these years, was all my mom could say. But I heard a different meaning in Melanie's words. When she said she didn't care what other people thought, was she also talking about us? When dinner was ready, they called for me. As I came out of my room, my eyes immediately found Melanie. She glanced at me and gave me a playful wink. My heart jumped. I quickly looked at my mom, terrified she'd seen. Seeing my reaction, Melanie just smiled and winked again. 06 dinner went smoothly. Melanie didn't say anything crazy to my mom, and I finally relaxed. After she left, I stood in the yard for a while, looking across at the Adams' old house. The house was technically Chloe's now, but neither of them ever stayed there. Chloe had a small apartment in the city she used occasionally, and Melanie had her own place downtown. When Melanie was in the neighborhood, it was usually to see my mom. That night, I tossed and turned, my mind a chaotic mess. The next day, my leave was over. I rode my scooter to work. As soon as I pulled into the factory lot, I saw Chloe's Accord. My stomach tightened. I parked my scooter and headed straight for the third floor for Melanie's office. After getting completely shut down yesterday, why was she back again? Just as I reached the office door, Chloe came out, holding hands with a man. I recognized him instantly from the video. Her husband. When they saw me, both of their expressions changed. Honey, where should we go for lunch? Chloe asked, clinging to his arm in a deliberate, showy way. Whatever, the man said, his face grim and his tone dismissive. Chloe was clearly unhappy with his answer and stopped walking. No, you pick. Whatever you want, we'll get. Her husband finally seemed to register her mood and soften his tone. It was then that Chloe looked at me, her eyes wide with fake surprise. Oh, Kevin? Honey, this is the neighbor I was telling you about. Right, hello, her husband said, glancing at me before extending a hand. His name was Leo. Chloe's mentioned you. Thanks for looking out for her all these years. His eyes were filled with a smug, proprietary challenge. Oh, hi, I said, shaking his hand and recalling Melanie's words from the other day. Nice to meet you. Thanks for taking her off my hands. The past few days had given me clarity. Chloe and I were completely, irrevocably over. Leo's face fell. Kevin, what are you talking about? Chloe snapped, glaring at me. Oh, right, I said with a breezy smile, turning back to Leo. You were in the video the other day. Chloe said you knew everything about us. I thought you really knew everything. My mistake. We never did anything, of course. Leo yanked his arm away from Chloe and stormed off without another word. Kevin, you'll pay for this. Chloe seethed, stomping her foot before running after him. I watched them go, a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. Well, look at you landing a punch. I'm impressed, a voice said from the office doorway. It was Melanie, smiling. I glanced at her and walked into her office, closing the door behind me. What were they here for? Nothing, she said with a shrug, returning to her desk. They haven't gotten their story straight yet. They need to go home and figure out their strategy. What do you mean? That husband Chloe found is no fool. He's a lawyer. Melanie explained with a wry smile, her eyes narrowing slightly. Looks like I underestimated her. Even her choice of husband was part of her plan. I was completely lost. Melanie went on to explain that Chloe and Leo had been to the factory several times while I was on leave. Leo, being a lawyer, had tried to use inheritance law to argue his case. The details were complicated, but the gist was that even though Melanie wasn't Chloe's biological mother, a legal guardianship had been established, which gave Chloe inheritance rights. It didn't matter if the money came from Arthur's original estate or from what Melanie earned later. So Adam's electronics has to be split in half. I asked, alarmed. Not a chance? Melanie scoffed. She explained that she had offered to split the assets, but only if Chloe would call her mom, which she knew Chloe would never do. Then she told them they could have their inheritance after she died, but she would be donating her entire fortune to charity in her will, which was legally untouchable by heirs. Furthermore, since Chloe was now an adult and their relationship was broken, Melanie was planning to legally dissolve the guardianship, cutting all ties. So they won't get a penny? I asked, relieved, even if I didn't fully grasp the legal maneuvering. Melanie took out a cigarette and lit it, her brow furrowed. I rarely saw her smoke, only when something was really bothering her. I knew this wasn't as simple as she was making it sound. Now, they're threatening to sue me for the Adams brand name, she said, exhaling a slow stream of smoke. What? She explained that if they sued for the brand, the case would be a toss-up. Even if she won, the legal battle could drag on for years and tarnish the company's reputation. The core of the issue was a legal gray area. Was the company's success after Arthur's death due to Melanie's skill or the power of the established brand name? It was a nightmare to define in court. Then just pay them for it, I said, feeling a pang of protectiveness seeing her so stressed. I reached over and took the cigarette from her hand, stubbing it out in the ashtray. Buy the brand name and be done with it. Don't waste your time with them. That was my plan, she said quietly. But the problem is, I think Chloe just wants to make me suffer, while her husband just wants the money. I told them to come back when they're on the same page. I fell silent. If it was just about money, it would be easy. But Chloe's desire for revenge complicated everything. It's fine, Melanie said, her confident demeanor returning with a shrug. Anything that can be solved with money isn't really a problem. Besides, I'm ready to settle things with Chloe once and for all. I raised her for all these years. I've done right by her father. She looked at me, her expression changing. By the way, you were late today. Didn't sleep well last night. What were you thinking about? Me? Her sudden shift caught me off guard. A what? I should, get to work. I scrambled out of her office, my face burning. Behind me, I heard her laugh softly. 07, I couldn't focus all morning. My mind kept drifting. My team leader knew about my family's connection to Melanie, so he didn't say anything. At lunch in the factory cafeteria, I saw Melanie approaching with her tray. I shoveled the last of my food into my mouth and quickly left. I saw her frown for a second before she sat down where I had been sitting. At the end of the day, I found my scooter with a flat tire. The security guard told me he saw the old factory manager's daughter slash it on her way out that morning. I was speechless. Chloe was being unbelievably childish. I couldn't believe I'd never seen this side of her. Get in. I'll give you a ride. Melanie's car pulled up beside me. Oh, no, it's fine. I'll just get an Uber, I said quickly. What? You got a raise? Have money to burn? Get in the car, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. I sighed and got in. Are you avoiding me? She asked as we pulled out of the factory gates. What? No. Why would I be avoiding you? I stammered, my heart racing. Good. Then you can come with me to the grocery store. I'm cooking at your place again. What? Again? You were just there yesterday, I said, bewildered. You ate dinner yesterday. Does that mean you're not eating today? She retorted. Look, Melanie, this had to stop. How many times do I have to say it? At work, I'm Mrs. Vance. In private, I'm Mel. Or just call me Mel. What is it you really want? I asked, cutting to the chase. I thought I made myself perfectly clear. Do I need to repeat myself? She said, frowning. It's not going to happen between us, I said with a sigh. I'm just going to pretend this was all a joke. From now on, you're just Mrs. Vance or my Annie Mel. Can we agree on that? No, she said, shaking her head firmly. Giving up halfway is not my style. There are so many good men in the world. Why are you fixated on me? Even if I agreed, my mom would never go for it. You agree first, Then we'll deal with your mom together, she said with a shrug. I just got out of a relationship. I don't want to date anyone right now. I'm not asking you to date me, she said with a smile. We can get married first, then fall in love. Mel, I'm begging you. Just let me go. I pleaded. I'm not a spider demon, and you're not a saintly monk. What am I letting you go from? She laughed. If you keep this up, I'll have to quit. I said, playing my last card. You can do that. Working here is your choice, but pursuing you is my choice. She was completely unfazed. I was out of options. I shut my mouth and stared out the window. At the market, I refused to get out of the car. Melanie went in by herself. I thought you would have walked home by now, she said with a smile when she returned and found me still in the car. Her words hit me. She was right. I could have walked. The market wasn't far from my house. When we got home, my mom was surprised to see us together. Melanie just smiled, held up the grocery bags, and said, I didn't feel like eating alone, so I came to bother you again. You're always welcome, but you don't have to bring groceries every time. My mom laughed, and they went into the kitchen. I sat in the yard and lit a cigarette. What's wrong with Kevin? I heard my mom ask Melanie in the kitchen. Is he still upset about Chloe? I'm already over it. I don't think so. Don't worry, he's a grown man now. Just think of it as growing pains, Melanie said, glancing out at me. Growing pains? He's in his late 20s. When is he going to finish growing? My mom muttered. At dinner, Melanie suggested opening a bottle of red wine she had in her car. A little drink will help you sleep. You won't worry so much, my mom said, assuming Melanie was also stressed about Chloe. I was about to pour myself a glass, but Melanie stopped me, saying it wasn't a man's drink. I grumbled, but didn't argue. Melanie, however, drank one glass after another. By the time dinner was over, her face was flushed. Mel, you can't drive like this. Why don't you just stay here tonight? You can sleep with me, my mom offered. No, I can't sleep in a strange bed. I need to get home. Kevin can drive me, Melanie said, handing me her car keys. I had a strong feeling this was all part of her plan. Make sure you see your Auntie Mel all the way to her door before you come back, my mom instructed. You have no idea your son is being hunted, I thought wryly. In the car, Melanie leaned her head against the window and just watched me, not saying a word. Her gaze made my skin crawl. Her eyes looked like they wanted to devour me. When we got to her apartment complex, and I was helping her out of the car in the underground garage, she leaned her whole body against me. I tried to shift away, but she stumbled, nearly falling. I had no choice but to wrap an arm around her waist to steady her. I got her up to her apartment and took her straight to her bedroom. I'd been here before with my mom, so I knew the way. The moment I laid her down on the bed, I turned to leave. Water, she mumbled. I looked back. Her face was red. Her eyes were closed. I couldn't just leave her. I went to the kitchen to get her a glass of warm water. When I came back, her pants and shirt were tossed on the floor beside the bed. She was lying there in just her underwear, the covers kicked aside. I froze. For a woman in her 30s, Melanie was in incredible shape. A wave of heat washed over me. I felt my throat go dry and instinctively drank the water I was holding. My mind flooded with inappropriate thoughts. Just then my phone rang. It was my mom. The sound snapped me back to reality. I answered, telling her we had just gotten in safely. She told me to drive Melanie's car home for the night and pick her up in the morning. I agreed, hung up, and went to get another glass of water. When I returned to the bedroom, I placed the water on the nightstand, pulled the covers up over her, and picked up her discarded clothes, placing them at the foot of the bed. I took one last look at her before quietly letting myself out of the apartment. My heart was pounding in my chest. I drove home with the windows down, trying to clear my head. But that night, the image of Melanie lying in bed was burned into my mind. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I even dreamed about her. The next morning, after a quick breakfast, I drove back to Melanie's building and parked in the garage. I texted her that I was downstairs. As I waited, my eyes were glued to the elevator doors. I felt a strange sense of anticipation and eagerness to see her. When the doors opened and it wasn't her, I felt a pang of disappointment. Then the doors opened again and she stepped out. A wave of joy washed over me as I watched her walk toward the car, the memory of last night flashing through my mind. Thanks for last night, she said as she got in. No problem, I mumbled, not looking at her as I started the car. Did you help me get undressed? She asked casually as we pulled out of the garage. What? No, You did it yourself. I blurted out, my face on fire. I was drunk. How could I have done that? She asked, her eyes fixed on me. How should I know? I went to get you some water, and when I came back, your clothes were off. I stammered, my face turning crimson. Suddenly, she burst out laughing. I realized she'd been messing with me and shot her an annoyed look. But seeing her radiant smile made my heart flutter. Watch out, she yelled. I snapped back to attention just in time to slam on the brakes, stopping inches from running a red light. As good-looking as I am, you still need to focus on the road, she teased. I didn't say anything, just stared at the stoplight, my heart hammering against my ribs. This is not good. Not good at all. Am I beautiful? She asked, smiling. You're okay, I said distractedly. Just okay. You have high standards, she laughed. I stayed silent, unable to calm my racing heart. Who's prettier, me or Chloe? She pressed. I ignored her. Just then, her phone rang. I'll deal with it when I get to the factory, she said into the phone before hanging up. They just don't quit, do they? She muttered. Chloe's at the factory again? I asked as the light turned green. Looks like the happy couple has reached an agreement, she said with a deep breath. I just hoped this would all be over soon. I've been thinking, Melanie said suddenly. If Chloe really wants the brand name, I might just give it to her. What? But you poured your heart into that company. And if you don't use the Adams name, what will you use? Changing the brand will be a headache, but maybe it's a good opportunity to make a clean break from the past, she said with a sigh. I looked at her. It was true. Arthur Adams had been dead for years. Melanie had been married to him on paper for less than a day, yet she'd carried that connection for a decade. Even now, old clients sometimes called her Mrs. Adams. And she had raised his daughter. Maybe it really was time for a clean break. When we got to the factory, I parked the car and started to follow her out. You don't need to come, she said, stopping me. This has nothing to do with you. I don't want you involved. I'll just watch. Maybe I can help. What? Are you worried about me? She asked with a smile. Yeah, I admitted without thinking. She smiled back, a real, warm smile, and didn't argue anymore. I followed her to the office. Inside, only Leo, Chloe's husband, was waiting. He stood up when we entered. Mrs. Vance, he said politely, where's Chloe? Did you two come to a decision? Melanie asked, sitting down behind her desk. We did, Leo said. We want money, not the brand. I see. How much are you asking for? Melanie asked, her eyebrow raised. Based on the company's current valuation of at least $60 million, not counting other assets. Cut the crap, Melanie interrupted. Give me a number. $20 million, Leo said, his jaw tight. My jaw dropped. That was a third of the company's value. It was practically the same as splitting the company. Melanie just looked at him thoughtfully, saying nothing. It's not that much when you think about it, Mrs. Vance, Leo pressed. $20 million to make all your problems disappear. Is this Chloe's decision as well? Melanie asked. I told you. It was a joint decision. In that case, Melanie said with a shrug, you can have the Adams brand name. What do you mean? Leo's face paled. I mean exactly what I said. I have no intention of continuing to use the Adams brand. It belonged to Chloe's father, so it should be returned to her. I'm going to register a new company. The old brand is all yours. Leo stared at her, completely blindsided. Throw 9. Mrs. Vance, you need to think this through, Leo stammered. Rebranding a company in the middle of operations is not only incredibly complicated, but you also have to consider the costs, the market impact. I've considered all of it, Melanie said coolly, and I'm willing to bear the costs, the impact, and the complications. It's a small price to pay to be completely done with you too, and with the past. Wait, Mrs. Vance, the price is negotiable. Leo was clearly panicking. There's nothing to negotiate, Melanie said with a cold smile. I won't be giving you a single penny. Leo stared at her, dumbfounded. You're a smart man, Melanie continued. You thought you could leverage the brand for a final payout. Chloe's not that clever, and I'm sure when you got together with her, this was part of your plan from the very beginning. You're mistaken. Save it. Melanie cut him off with a wave of her hand. My decision is final. You can go inform Chloe. Leo looked at her for a long moment before taking out his phone to call Chloe. As he explained the situation, I could hear Chloe screaming through the receiver. You need to get down here, Leo said impatiently, then hung up. He noticed me staring at him, and as I twitched. Well, you two got what you wanted? I sneered. You could spend the rest of your lives cuddling that brand name. His face contorted with anger, but he said nothing. A few minutes later, Chloe burst in. I told you that which wouldn't be so generous. She would never just give us the brand name, she shrieked at Leo. What were you going to do with the brand name? Can you cash it in? Are you going to sleep with it at night? You idiot. Leo yelled back, his temper finally snapping. How dare you yell at me? You're the lawyer. If I had known you were so useless, I never would have gotten involved with you. Chloe shrieked. I told you from the start we had to play this slow, maximize our leverage, but did you listen to me once? Leo was practically hysterical. If I knew it would end like this, I never would have picked up your damaged goods in the first place. He stormed out, leaving Chloe standing in the middle of the office, completely stunned. All right, the show's over, Melanie said, standing up. I don't have time to keep dealing with you two. She walked out of the office. I looked at Chloe, a broken figure in the silent room, and felt a strange sense of pity. They were a perfect match, each one more calculating than the last. Their marriage was probably just another business deal. It was no surprise that it all fell apart at the first sign of trouble. I shook my head and followed Melanie out. I'll kill you. Chloe's unhinged scream echoed behind us. We both turned. She was rushing at us, a steak knife clutched in her hand. If I can't be happy, neither can you, she shrieked, lunging at Melanie. For a split second, everyone froze. No one expected this. I was standing right there. On pure instinct, I lunged forward and grabbed the hand holding the knife. The blade was razor sharp. A searing pain shot through my palm, and blood immediately started to gush out, dripping onto the floor. That's when Melanie snapped out of her shock, her eyes wide with horror. Other employees started rushing toward Chloe. If you're so determined to protect her, you can die for her. Chloe screamed. Before I could react, I felt a sharp, piercing pain in my stomach. I looked down. In her other hand, she'd had another knife. It was buried in my side. In the next moment, the others were on her, tackling her to the ground. Ha ha! All of you deserve to die. Ha ha! She shrieked, her hair wild, her laughter turning into crazed sobs as they pinned her down. She looked like a madwoman. I collapsed to the floor, my hands soaked in blood, a dark stain spreading across my shirt. Kevin, hold on. Somebody call an ambulance. Kevin, you can't die. I won't let you. Melanie fell to her knees beside me, her voice choked with tears, her composure shattered. Mel, don't cry. It was the first time I had ever seen her look so vulnerable. It broke my heart. Mrs. Vance, don't wait for the ambulance. We'll drive him, someone yelled, shaking her out of her panic. Right? She said, her focus returning. Keep calling 911. We'll drive toward the hospital and meet them on the way. They carried me to her car. Melanie never let go of my hand, her voice a constant, desperate encouragement in my ear. We met the ambulance on the highway, and they transferred me, starting treatment immediately. My vision started to blur. The last thing I remembered was Melanie's face, her hand clutching mine. Then darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital room. Melanie was asleep in a chair beside the bed, her hand still tightly gripping mine. Kevin, you're awake, she said, her eyes flying open as if she'd sensed me stir. A brilliant smile spread across her face. I nodded, trying to speak, but she shushed me, telling me to rest. She explained that the knife had missed any major organs. I was lucky. My thoughts drifted to Chloe. Leo and Chloe are both in police custody, Melanie said, reading my mind. I heard they were at each other's throats the whole ride to the station. It made sense. Leo was only ever in it for the money. With that gone, he had no reason to stick around. I looked at Melanie, at the exhaustion etched on her face, and slowly raised my bandaged right hand to touch her cheek. Why did you jump in front of me? She asked, taking my hand and pressing it to her face, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Instinct, I managed to whisper. She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. It's always instinct with you, isn't it? Just then, a small cough came from the doorway. We both turned. My mom was standing there, holding a thermos, her eyes wide as she took in the scene. I tried to pull my hand back, but Melanie held it fast. My mom stared at our joined hands for a long moment before she walked over and set the thermos on the nightstand. Kevin, how are you feeling? She asked, her voice tight. Mom, what are you doing here? I'm fine, I said, my face burning with embarrassment. How could I not come? After something like this? She took a deep breath. Melanie, can I speak with you outside for a moment? Melanie glanced from my mom to me. You rest, she whispered, squeezing my hand before letting go. You, I started worried. It's okay, she said with a reassuring smile. I know what to say. She stood up and followed my mom out of the room. I lay there, my mind racing with anxiety. I had no idea what my mom would say to her, or what Melanie would say back. They were gone for over an hour. When my mom returned, she was alone. Mom, where is she? What did you do to her? I asked, my heart sinking. Oomph. You two are getting bolder and bolder. How could you hide this from me? She scolded, sitting down beside my bed. It wasn't her fault. It was me. I blurted out. I was the one who liked her first. I've liked her since I first saw her in middle school. If you're going to be mad at someone, be mad at me. You're from different generations, she sighed. Chloe is married to someone else. What generation gap is there anymore? I argued, but I've always thought of her as my little sister. You're so much older than her. You were never really peers. And you're not blood relatives. But she's 9 years older than you. They say an older wife brings you gold. I guess I'm getting a whole treasure chest. I'm the one who lucked out. My mom fell silent, just staring at me. Mom, I really love her, I said, my voice softening into a plea. And I know she loves me. This is real. When she still didn't respond, I started groaning, pretending my wounds were hurting. Oh, stop it, she huffed, though her expression softened. The doctor said you're not dying. Mom, ache, what a mess, she sighed, rubbing her temples. How am I supposed to explain this to the neighbors? Who cares what they say? I pressed. Think about it. You and her already get along so well. You'll have the perfect mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. Suddenly, my mom called out towards the door. Did you hear all that? You can come in now. I looked over, stunned, as Melanie walked back into the room, a small smile on her face. I'm getting too old for this. I can't control you kids anymore, my mom said, shaking her head as she stood up. This is your life. Do what you want. A real mess. She walked out, muttering to herself. What did you say to her? She didn't yell at you? I asked, completely bewildered. I just told her the truth, Melanie said with a shrug. Your mom has always been a reasonable person. I still couldn't believe it. My mom was reasonable, but this was a whole other level. So, Melanie said, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. Was all that you told your mom true? You've really liked me since the first time you saw me? I closed my eyes and let out another groan, pretending to be in pain. Beside me, Melanie's laughter filled the room. A month later, on the day I was discharged, my mom told me that Leo had officially filed for divorce from Chloe. But Chloe was refusing to sign, threatening to take him down with her. From what we heard, her assault charge would land her in prison for at least 3 years. It was a sad end, but at least her anger was now directed at Leo. Melanie gave me 6 months of paid leave to recover while she dealt with the legal case and the rebranding of the factory. We were officially a couple. It was awkward for my mom at first, but she slowly came around. To avoid the neighborhood gossip, Melanie had my mom move in with her. On our anniversary, Melanie and I walked into the county clerk's office. We filled out the forms, took the picture, and handed our documents to the clerk. A few moments later, with the stamp of a seal, we were legally married. The first person I called was my mom. Good, that's wonderful. Ask your Auntie Mel. Wait, no, not Auntie Mel. Ask Mel what she wants to do for the wedding. We may not be rich, but we'll do everything by the book, she said, overjoyed and flustered. Here, you can ask her yourself, I said, handing the phone to Melanie. It's my mom. Hi, Carol, Melanie said into the phone. What's this, Carol, nonsense? Have some respect. Call me Mom, my mom scolded from the other end. Melanie's face flushed. After a moment's hesitation, she shyly said, Mom. My mom was thrilled. She immediately asked about wedding plans. Mom, Kevin and I talked about it. We're not going to have a big wedding, Melanie said, glancing at me with a smile. What? No wedding? Why not? Is it because of your past? Don't you worry about that in our family. If Kevin dares to cheap out after getting the girl, I'll twist his ear off. No, it's not that. We want to have a destination wedding, just the two of us. We don't want all the fuss. My mom sighed. All right, if that's what you want. It's just, Mel, I feel like you're getting the short end of the stick here. I think my mom realized that with Melanie's connection to the Addams family, a public wedding would be complicated. I'm not, Melanie said, her voice full of warmth. Marrying Kevin and becoming your daughter-in-law. I couldn't be happier. Well, if you say so, that's all that matters. You two do whatever makes you happy. That night, my mom cooked a feast to celebrate. She even had a few glasses of wine and was passed out by the middle of the meal. Melanie and I helped her to her room. Later that night, Melanie stayed in my room. We were husband and wife, after all. We talked for hours, laying all our cards on the table. Finally, I said the words, "Mel, I love you." She hugged me tightly, burying her face in my chest, her cheeks flushed like a teenager's. My heart swelled. I leaned down and kissed her. For the rest of the night, words were unnecessary. The next morning, I was stunned to see a spot of red on the sheets. I couldn't believe it. Melanie was 34. She explained that nothing had ever happened with Arthur before they got their license. And her one boyfriend before him. They had kept things chaste. "Are you happy?" she asked, her face glowing. I nodded vigorously. What man wouldn't be? A week later, we flew to Hawaii for our honeymoon. Near the end of our trip, my mom called. Chloe had attacked another inmate in jail and had been diagnosed with a severe mental breakdown. Leo refused to have anything to do with her, and his divorce filing had been granted by default. My mom, out of residual obligation, had been the one to handle the paperwork to get her transferred to a psychiatric hospital. When we got back, we went to visit her once. The staff said she was still aggressive and had to be kept in isolation. Through a small window, we saw her, strapped into a straitjacket, rocking back and forth and muttering curses to herself. We couldn't tell if she was talking about us or about Leo.